All right, so this is going to be the review for the quiz. Okay, quiz number, we're going to call it 2.1. Okay, so first quiz from chapter 2. 2.2 will be second quiz from chapter 2. And we're just going to go over questions that you guys have to know how to do. Okay. What I like to do with my review is I like to take questions from the quiz and then I will basically change a couple numbers and that's about it. So in other words, if you can do the practice problems, you should be able to do the actual problems. Okay. We will do as many examples as we can before I bore you to death. Okay. Hopefully you're like, well, that's just after 2. Well, then I apologize. We're gonna do more than 2. Okay, but I do want to make sure that you guys get a couple of examples at least, like 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. That way you can get a good idea of what you need to know. So here we go. Here's the first one. Okay, so you're going to see something like this. Okay, now the instructions are going to say just to evaluate. Okay, just evaluate. So basically just simplify it, right? Try to figure out what to do. Now remember, this is all based on the order of operations, right? PEMDAS, right? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication or division, right? Let me write that down right here. This is multiplication or division, and then addition or subtraction, right? So the order in which it comes first. So notice in this example that I gave you, there is no parenthesis, there is no exponent, there is multiplication. So let's go ahead and multiply, right? Let's start with 3 times 2, right? So -4 minus 3 times 2 is 6 times 5, but yet again there's still more multiplication, right? 6 times 5. Actually, let me rewrite this. Don't erase your stuff, okay? Don't worry. I usually like rewriting things in different colors. That way, at least, let me see if this one looks good. A little too dark. Give me a second. That way you can see like the original problem versus the work I did, right? So, all right, 6 times 5 is 30, so -4 minus 30. And then -4 minus 30 is what? They're both negative, so they got to stay negative. Yeah, -34. Thank you. So you just got to add them, right? If they have the same sign, you just have to add. So there's your answer, and we move on. Okay? So that's one example of something you're going to have to do. Now, here's another example of something you're going to have to know how to do. And put number 2 here. So we'll try 6 times 2 to the third plus 6 minus 4. Okay, again, we're using order of operations. Okay, so first thing is parentheses. I do have a parentheses, but inside of the parentheses, just a 2, so there's nothing for me to do. So that means that what I'm going to do is move on to the next step, which is the exponent, right? So there's a power of 3, so 2 to the third. Anybody know what that is? 8, thank you. Plus 6 minus 4. Now, notice I have multiplication, I have addition, and I have subtraction. So I got to do multiplication first, right? 6 times 8, that's 48. Plus 6 minus 4. Now there is addition or subtraction. So when you guys are doing this, you have to make sure you do them in order from left to right. So addition shows up first. So 48 plus 6, that's 54. And then 54 minus 4, that's 50. By the way, if right now when I'm doing this work, like, you start seeing like weird things pop up and stuff like that, I do apologize. This is the first time I'm using this app. Okay, it's the same program that I normally use, but this is the app version. And then there's a big program version. Now the big program version, I'm really used to using it. Like I'm really good at using it. But I've been noticing that ever since April of this year, when they updated the firmware on this Surface, sometimes the pen dies. Like it's writing and then it stops writing, and I can't wake it up unless I like completely restart my computer, right? Which isn't that bad, but I'm wondering if it's the program itself. So I'm using the app, and let's see if it doesn't freeze, then yeah, it's got to be the program. But if it does freeze, then it's something else. Okay, so that's why I'm using this. So it might look a little different than what you've been seeing, but still the same idea. Still OneNote and stuff, just in app form. Now, before I move on, anybody have any questions on the first two? You guys good? All right. So moving on. So this is all stuff you guys have to know how to do for order of operations. And they are going to give you one question that looks like this. Okay, they'll say like, here's an M, let's say minus F squared if M is, let's say 10 and F is 5. So they're going to give you a problem like that, which is still order of operations, but you're also going to be plugging stuff in, okay? So all you got to do is substitute. There's nothing tricky about this one. Just substitute the values. So 10 minus 5 squared, okay? And 10 minus 5, that's 5 squared, okay? And 5 squared, 25, right? So there you go. So we got that done, and we're finished. See, I'm trying to get rid of that little box, and usually the way you do it on the other program is you touch the screen, but here when I touch the screen, that pops out, right? So this is what I mean. Like if you see weird stuff happening, it's not that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to discover stuff. Okay, so I do apologize for that. All right, so let's move on. So that was all order of operations. Now, guys, I am not going to do any calculator problems for you, okay? There are 2 problems on your quiz that they're going to say, use your calculator to do this, okay? And all you have to do is punch it into a calculator and do it. So I'm not going to worry about reviewing that. That's all calculator stuff, okay? So we're okay with that, okay? That's not a big deal. Doing them by hand, that's a little different. But when all you got to do is punch it into a calculator, then you know, just practice that. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just do one, but we're not going to solve it. Let me just show you what to do, okay? But we're not going to solve it because I don't have a calculator at the ready here. But I'm going to write down every button you should press in order to get it done right, okay? So they do have a problem that looks a little complicated. It looks something like this. And they say, use a scientific calculator. Now, the instructions say or cell phone, but that's not accurate, okay? There's no cell phones on the quiz tomorrow, right? So make sure, like I said, go get a calculator. If you don't have one, I could let you borrow one. I have like 10, okay? So it's not a lot. So if you're going to need to borrow one, you got to get here quick, okay? Or like I told the other classes, I don't know if I told you guys, but if you go to the dollar store, they sell scientific calculators for $1. They're not solar. They're just battery powered. So this maybe this weekend I'll make a real quick trip down there and see if I can buy like, I don't know, 30, 40 of them and just start giving them away to people if you guys need them. But I got to see if they have any. Anyway, so these are the numbers you're going to have to press, okay? So here we go. You're going to press, and this is going to seem a little long, so I apologize. Parenthesis, 1, 0, end parenthesis, open parenthesis, 6, minus 3, close parenthesis. So that's this right here, okay? That's that part. Okay? Now the other part is going to look like this. Minus. Then you're going to put a parenthesis. I know it doesn't have one there, but remember what I told you guys when I taught this to you guys. If you ever need to write down a fraction, you have to tell it what the numerator is and what the denominator is, right? So by putting a parenthesis, I'm going to tell it, look, here's something that belongs on top. So here's a 16. I'm going to close the parenthesis, and then I'm going to press division. And now it's saying, oh, so that's the numerator. Then I'm going to put another parenthesis. So now it says, okay, here comes the denominator. 2 minus 14. And then at that point, you're going to tap the equal sign, okay? And that should give you the answer. Okay, so parenthesis 1, 0, end parenthesis 6 minus 3, end parenthesis, then minus, and then I see a fraction, so I got to use parentheses again. So parenthesis 1, 6, end parenthesis, divided by parenthesis 2 minus 14, end parenthesis, okay? And that will give you your answer. Did anybody do that? I'm just curious. Did anybody try that on their calculator? If somebody's willing to do that and shout out an answer, let me know, okay? But here we go. This green part is right there. All right, so please make sure you guys like practice this, what I showed you right here. Just try to practice it and see what answer you get. I can give you the answer if I just solve it, but I'll see if somebody can do it by using their calculator. Okay? So, all right, number 5. Now, for things like number 5, they're going to want us to just simplify, okay? They're just going to want us to simplify. And that means we're going to have like terms. So we'll have things as easy as negative 2n plus 6n. Right? Or maybe something like this, like 7 times negative 3 plus 2v. So we'll start with those. And again, these are all questions on your quiz. Like I literally can see these on your quiz. I'm just changing some numbers, maybe the letters, okay? But they're in the same format. So if you can do these, you should do just fine on your quiz tomorrow, okay? And just as a reminder, guys, I always have students tell me like, you know, the reason why I don't do math is because I don't know how to study math. And I'm like, well, how do you study math? And they're like, well, I try to memorize this and memorize that. And I'm like, you don't study math by memorizing. I said, you think Kobe Bryant got good at shooting free throws by reading books about it? They're like, no, like he had to go and shoot, right? All of the great players have to go out and do it. You know, a mechanic, I could read books about fixing cars all I want. Doesn't mean I can do it, right? My dad showed me at a young age how to do the work, right? So then I learned, okay, this is what I need to do in order to fix cars. Okay, maybe not everything nowadays. Everything's way too complicated now. Way too many electronic parts. But old cars I could fix for you. Anything 90s and below. Okay, but now, yeah, not so much. But yeah, you have to go out there and do it. So how do you study for math? You practice the problems you don't know. Okay, I got so many of my students say I did all 30 problems. And I practiced them over and over again. I said, out of those 30, how many did you know? They're like, oh, I knew how to do like almost all of them except for 2. And I'm like, why are you practicing the stuff you know? Right? When you write a letter, you don't start by reciting your alphabet first, right? And then practicing your cursive or whatever, right? We just kind of go into it. The stuff we know. So when you study math, guys, like when you study for this quiz, I would like you guys to go over these notes again, try them on your own, and let's say you get everything right, then guess what? You don't need to study, right? But if you miss 3 of them, then those 3, study those 3 problems. Okay, go over them, make sure you know how to do them. Okay, don't waste your time on the stuff you know. If you already know it, you know it. That's not a problem. Okay, so, all right, let's see. Simplifying here, like terms, right? These things right here. This is a like term to this one right here. Okay? So I can just combine them. Negative 2n plus 6n. That's going to give me a 4n. And there's my answer. Okay. Still trying to figure out how to, maybe if I do that. Oh, okay, that worked. And the other one is just distribution, right? We're just going to want to distribute this thing there and there. So let's go ahead and distribute. 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. Plus 7 times 2v, that's 14v. And we're done. Alright, so very quick, very straightforward. Alright, I'm going to the last set of problems that we have over here, so they get a little bit more complicated. So let's look at number 7, example number 7 here. So we'll say this one's a little bit more complicated because it does have a whole bunch more letters, right? More letters, more distribution, more numbers in general. So yeah, it's going to take us a little bit longer to do. So remember, this is distribution. Now we're doing it twice, so dual distribution here. So little by little, just take your time. So 4 times 2x, that's going to be 8x minus 4 times 1, that's 4, plus 3 times 2x, that's 6x, and 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. Okay, so now just combine your like terms. What should I get when I combine my like terms? Trying to make this the right size for the highlighting. So here's my like term. Here's another like term. What do I get with those two? Say again? 12x? Almost. 14x, yes. And what about negative 4 minus 24, the other set of like terms? These right here. What do I get for those? Negative 28. Thank you. So there we go. So we're done. Can I subtract, because there's a common miscue here. Can I subtract the 14 minus the 28? Why not? Like, aren't they just numbers? Right? No, right? What's their difference? It's the variable, right? The variable, one has a variable, one does not. Right? You ever heard that term, like it's like comparing apples and oranges? Right? That's kind of what's happening, right? 14x, you could call it an apple. Anything with an x, we could call it an apple. If it doesn't have an letter, then we'll call it an orange. So an apple minus an orange, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So they're just not like terms. So if they were alike, sure, but since they're not, then we're not going to go ahead and do that. So, all right, last set. There's this was all simplifying like terms, but if you guys remember, yesterday's lesson was about solving. Okay, so let's do a couple problems here for solving, and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, so I'm gonna put right here solve. And we'll start off with something that's relatively straightforward. And then we'll move on to something a little bit more difficult. And then I think after that, we'll be done. We'll do 9 or 10 examples, but that'll be about it. Okay, so we're just solving that. Remember, in order to solve, you have to be able to combine like terms, right? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to combine like terms. So these are like terms. Negative 2x minus 6x are like terms. Okay, so negative 2x minus 6x Yes, so negative 8x equals to 24, right? So usually, I think I told you guys yesterday, your last step is usually, not always, but usually a division, right? So we're going to divide both sides by negative 8. Okay, so the negative 8s are going to cancel right here. So x is equal to negative 3. Okay, so we're done with that one. And if you feel pretty good about all this stuff so far, I mean, that's good. You should feel confident then that you're going to do pretty well on the quiz, right? But if you're still a little, I don't know about that, once we're done with the lesson, we're going to have time in class for you guys to kind of work on homework that maybe you haven't finished. Some of you guys haven't finished your ALEKS, so you guys have to finish that so you can work on that. Maybe you're like, well, I'm already done with the homework and I'm already done with ALEKS, but I have questions on what you just did. Well, then we'll discuss that. Okay? So we have time to kind of discuss things. That way you can feel confident that you know what you're doing. So here we go. Let's go over a problem that you would consider, at least some people would consider, as a difficult problem. Okay? Some people would say, okay, this is a hard problem. Can anybody give me 2 reasons why this would be a hard problem? Why would people say this one's tough? What do you guys think? Any ideas? Why would someone look at this and say, oh, that's way harder than number 8? No? Well, there's more numbers. All right, there's a lot more numbers. Anybody else? I see one thing that looks really obvious. All right, what is that process called? Distribution. Thank you. So the distribution might make it a little bit tougher. Does anybody notice that there's variables on both sides of the equation? Right? So that might make it a little bit tougher as well. Right? So those are little things people might see and say, uh-oh, this is going to be a little bit harder to do than the other one. So we'll start with the distribution, okay? So let's do that first. So I'm going to move negative 25 minus 3n equals, and let's distribute. So 2 times negative 5n is negative 10n, and then 2 times 5 is 10. All right. Now, usually I will combine my like terms. So I see them right here. Okay. So which one should I move? Remember what I told you? I like to move the smaller one. Which one is the smaller one? The negative 3 or the negative 10? Negative 10. Yeah, with negative numbers, the one that looks bigger is actually smaller, right? So we're going to add 10n to both sides. So I get negative 25. Negative 3n plus 10n is a positive 7n. Give me a second. Nope, it is not the app. Okay, so that's good to know. So my pen, right now my pen literally just froze. So look, if I write anywhere, it doesn't work. So it's not my main program. Well, let me just do the following really quick. All right, so sorry about that. So what were we doing? I was supposed to be writing positive 7n, right? So n equals to, now negative 10n plus 10n cancels. So all we have left is a 10. Okay? So I have my variable on the left, so let's move that negative 25 over, Okay, so we're going to do a plus 25. Sorry about that. Plus 25 to both sides. This will cancel. 7n equals to 35. If I divided both sides by 7, what's my answer? 5, right? So thank you. I'm hoping you guys had found this answer as we waited, right? But here you go. Here's our solution. So that's it, guys. This is what you guys need to be able to do for your quiz. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at some point. I don't know where that. There we go.